I will say, I think I know what God wants me to do and where we end up, but like that same tension, I don't know how we get there. So I don't know what happens in this next few minutes. So grace, and now my notes aren't even loading. Wouldn't that be ironic? Go God, go. Um, what? Yeah, real unclothed right now. Uh, I think we're in Exodus 20. We can start there. I have the circle of death. We'll see if it loads or not. Uh, it is supposed to be available even if it's offline. Okay. So we have been talking about Jubilee when I speak. That's kind of our theme for the year. And so I found a book, Sabbath as Resistance by Walter Brueggemann. How to Say No to the Culture of Now. I thought that kind of fit for us. And so we're going to do Sabbath because that's the principle that Jubilee is built on. We do Sabbath every 7 days, we do Year of Release every 7 years, and then on the 50th year of that we do Year of Jubilee, all built on Sabbath. So we're talking about Sabbath specifically today, but as it lays the foundation for Year of Jubilee, which we believe we are in as a church. And that's also that tension that Greg mentioned, is when it's the Year of Jubilee, we want the freedom, we want restored, we want to be made whole, we want the things that we've lost to be brought back to us, we want released from our own debts, all those things. We also want to give that away, but we can't give it away until we have it to give it away. And so how do you keep that aflow and moving? And that's hopefully a little bit of where we're going today. We have the 10 Commandments, that's Exodus 20. That is where the Lord brings about Sabbath. We have the example of him taking a rest during the creation, but he does not instruct his people to take Sabbath until Mount Sinai, when he gives them the covenant for them to say yes to. And it's a marriage covenant. And so what I liked about not this book, but another thing that we've been referencing, the Bema podcast, he says, let's do the 10 Commandments in wedding speak. Because if we just had a marriage, now we're going to give the commandments in what if this is an intimate relationship with one person. And so if we translate those in wedding speak, we're going to go over those, because that is what builds the intimacy. And I think that's one of the things he's going after with us in that time of waiting. Do we trust him? Do we love him? Do we think what he wants for us is best? Or, my rock, do I think I know what's best? Ooh. Do I want it that's kind of what happens. Do I want it my way? That's what mine is. I want it my way. And often what I want my way is because I want it how it used to be. The good old days. What do they even say when they're wondering? What do they want to eat? Yeah, they want melons and cucumbers, fish. God says, nope, what I have for you is better. And it's called, what is it? If you know what it is, manna. That translates, what is this? What is it? I've always loved that. Because well, never mind. Some of you know me too well. Keeps telling me it will not open it. So I'll stop trying. And so when they're called out of Egypt, what are some things about Egypt that felt comfortable to them? And so let's think of this in regards to empire. We have Egypt represents empire, and we have promised land is going to equal kingdom of peace. Okay? So interactive. What do they have in Egypt? If it's empire, we assume it's not great. Yeah.
Like clear expectations.
Clear expectations. Yeah, there's a hierarchy, and it's in the shape of a what? Who's at top? Pyramid, because who's on the top? Pharaoh. Yeah, so we know what to expect. And we know, where are we in the pyramid? Way bottom. We're the slaves. What else? Any ideas? This is where if I had my notes, it would be a little bit easier, because I'm trying to, we have commodity system, right? So not only do we have the social hierarchy, we also have the economy. We know like what things are worth, we know what we can buy. What do we probably want more of? Food? Money? Trying to look at our age here. Sex was a big thing in Egyptian culture. So it usually comes down to sex, money, power. Those are what the empire culture, practices, and system is built on. I'm trying to think of my keywords. Kingdom of peace. What's it going to be built on? Trust. What else? Love. And who do we love? And each other. So there's no social hierarchy in the kingdom of peace. We're all equal. How's that going to work? I don't know. Okay, so we have money, sex, power. And what's our commodity in the kingdom of peace? Do we charge interest? No. So money's like not really that important. And every 7 years you gotta give everything back anyway? How's this gonna work? Hey, I want mine, and I want yours, and I want more, and I want more. And how do we get more? We work harder. That's the culture they're coming out of. And so we'll go Exodus 20, verse 1. God is reminding them of all of this by how he starts it out. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. So when he's going to give them the 10 rules, he's right away setting them up, saying, I rescued you from that, and so now we're going to do this, kingdom of peace. And you're going to be really confused, and you're not going to know how to do it, and so here are some rules. So we're going to do the rules in wedding speak. So number 1, I am your husband. That's good. Number 2, have no other lovers, not even pictures of them. Number 3, treat me with respect and do not sully my name. We don't talk bad about our husbands and our wives. Number 4, keep a date night for just the 2 of us. Intimacy, alone time. Get a babysitter, no distractions. Number 5, trust that my provision for you is enough. Number 6, don't hurt yourself. Number 7, protect your sexuality. Keep our relationship pure in that way. Don't take what is not yours. Please tell the truth about yourself. We have to be honest with each other if we're going to have an intimate relationship. And number 10, be satisfied with what we have together. And so if we're in a time of waiting right now with God, I think it's 4 and 10. And 4 and 10 are the ones he focuses on in this book. So keep a date night, Sabbath. Keep Sabbath and keep it holy. And be satisfied with what we have together. Trust me. What you have and what we have is enough. So if we do that, Sabbath builds resistance to anxiety. Sabbath builds resistance to coercion, being threatened or bullied into doing something else. Sabbath builds resistance to exclusivism. And Sabbath builds resistance to multitasking. This is where I don't quite know where we're going next, especially without notes. Okay, let me ask this. Does anyone right away think, how do I say this? I want help with that. It would be, but would also be willing to be a guinea pig and come up. You're volunteering? I heard a chuckle. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Will you? Yeah. All right, come on up. And we'll just have a little conversation. You might want the mic, Jeremy. You're good. I'm going to grab that one.
We need it. Yeah. Can I change my mind?
So now I don't know if this will work. I had another reference to use. So as you think about Sabbath, maybe just tell us a little bit about your Sabbath journey since we started that this year. Like, have you been working on it? Is there anything you're aware of with it?
I think I'm a little, okay, we good? All right. I'm just trying to test the water without hurting everyone's ears because I'm loud. So I think for me, it's hard to break down the Sabbath journey for this year because I feel like it's been something that God has been working on for 5+ years. For a long time, James was pushing, I forget what the book is, but about working out of rest. And when we were reading that book, it did not make sense to me at all. And then it's like over the last 5 years, God has slowly been kind of revealing that to me. So I think for me, I always looked at what Sabbath is Sunday. I don't do anything on Sunday. I just lay around and just super lazy and watch TV, and that's what Sabbath is supposed to be. So that was I'd say my halfway right picture of what Sabbath is. I would say over the last 3 years, for me, I personally have been focusing on trying to find a daily Sabbath and finding that moment of working out of that. So what that has looked like for me has been, I found for me personally that when I come home from work, that I just take a time, regardless of what I have going on in that evening, I take just this time to where I just rest. And it literally is for me as a rest. I put earbuds in, I listen to music that brings me just some peace, and I just lay there, and sometimes I doze off for 10-15 minutes, sometimes I don't, but for me, I've found that when I do that, how my evening goes is very different than when I don't do that.
Awesome. Do you feel like any of the things that I read, the anxiety, coercion, exclusivism, and multitasking, do any of those stick out that you want more clarity on overcoming? Or is there anything?
Name those again, please?
Yeah, anxiety, coercion, which means we can be bullied. Like, so we're bullied into empire instead of kingdom of peace.
Let's go there.
Okay. So how do you feel that that might be happening? Like, where is the spot where I can get bullied? I can live in empire instead of kingdom of peace.
So I think for me, I think just my personality, that if I feel like I'm being bullied, I will hit that head on. Like, I have no problem with that. I think where maybe this is why I wanted to kind of touch this is that I feel like the enemy may bully me, because in the aspect that I want to be someone that doesn't let other people down. I want to be someone that is going to be the one that if asked to do it will step up and do it. And so I'm almost wondering if that's more of the path for me.
Yes. So how can you specifically use Sabbath to not be bullied by the enemy, to not let others down? Did I get it right? I'm
processing.
Okay, and I'm like, do I need to write it down? We're gonna go with it. So yeah, make it right. If I didn't get it right, make it right.
I don't know if I have a good answer for you. I mean, I want to say discernment as far as, okay, Holy Spirit, are you leading me in this? Or is this just, am I just doing this out of guilt? Doing this out of guilt and doing this out of not wanting to let other people down. So I don't have a good answer besides discernment, but then that can also look very different. And just trying to process, is this conviction or is this condemnation?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm open to suggestions.
So far, are you guys tracking with us? Like, this is how Sabbath can work. So if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with, I'm living in empire, I'm living by commodity, I'm living by the social structure, I have to work my way in, I have to belong. This is how, these are the questions you ask to identify. And that's why we're doing this up here, up front. And then we're going to keep going, hopefully, to identify how to use Sabbath to break through to the other side, so that that we're living in kingdom of peace. Questions? We're tracking? I see a few nods. Okay. So now can you restate what you just did? Yeah. So is it conviction or condemnation?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So in Sabbath is when we can maybe find that intimacy with the Lord to get the truth. Does that make sense?
No, agreed.
Yeah.
So those times where I just set that aside, those times of just taking a breather rather than just making a decision out of in the moment, but taking time to just work out of that rest. So find that Sabbath moment that I set aside, and then coming out of that, making decisions. I think I'm probably closer to the Father's heart coming out of that than I was before it.
Yes. So it's about intention, and it's about the purpose, not just I took time out of my day to check out. Does that make sense? Yes. So for me, sometimes Sabbath can be reading a book. And sometimes reading a book can be, I just don't want to face my problems. And so when you're mad at your spouse or your best friend, maybe if you're not married, do it that way. Do you want to be with them alone? No. And so when you're struggling in something, you have to press in to that alone time with them. So it's not turning on the TV to just not do anything that day. It's not just, picking on you, putting in my earbuds and maybe falling asleep. That may be the answer some days, for sure. For me, it's not just picking up a book and reading, because that's what I like to do. I like to escape in someone else's story. Like, that's where I use it wrongly. Like, it's super, I mean, I can read like 3 lines of a book and I'm in. Or like, and even a movie, like if I watch 10 minutes of a movie, I'm more than likely gonna finish it. I can't turn it off because I gotta know what happens to them. They're real people. They're not real people. And so we use Sabbath to get out of empire, to identify the ways we are in empire, what is keeping us from being alone with God sometimes. Because I don't always want to hear what he has to say. I don't always like who I am. Because I have a lot of these. I thought about like having a pocket full and just like, and then I have some of this, and I have some of that. And it's hard to sit with someone with all of our weight and all of our junk. But that's what he wants us to do. That's why we set aside that time with him. And that's how in the waiting, we can come through to the other side. It's not to get it done faster. It's not to make it easier. The waiting is waiting, but it might as well be productive. How much do you want to go on, or does that feel good as far as identifying?
I'm good whenever.
Okay. I mean, if you're like, well, it's,
No.
with me, it's always going to have like a hint of inner healing because that's who I am. And so the questions going forward would be like, why does guilt have a foothold in me, right? Why do I want to escape? Why do I want to live someone else's story vicariously instead of my own type of thing? Those are the dysfunctions that we rely on. Thank you. Unless you have something else. Anyone else? I want to be like, hey, what are my things? I did have some things highlighted. Let me see if reading them. Yeah, so this is out of the book Walter Brueggemann wrote. In our own contemporary context of the rat race of anxiety, the celebration of Sabbath is an act of both resistance and alternative. It is a resistance because it is a visible insistence that our lives are not defined by the production and consumption of commodity goods. Such an act of resistance requires enormous intentionality and communal reinforcement amid the barrage of seductive pressures from the insatiable instances of the market. So even one of the simplest ways is to like remove ourselves from the rat race of life. And buying into that, what our culture says, we need more. And that's where he goes to that 10th commandment of be satisfied with what you have, with what we have together. I am enough. And God knows when to say enough is enough. In the US, I believe we were founded as a kingdom of peace. Like I think our founding fathers tried. I think we have turned into empire. And so if you want help on that aspect of it, and the first king that like Israel became empire was Solomon. All of a sudden, like collecting horses, our system is gold and silver. He enslaved people, so now we don't have neighbors. People are less than, people are in or out. Those are the things of empire. And so we now live in that culture of empire. And so how do we create for ourselves and those around us that kingdom of peace? How do we reject empire? And that'll be different for everyone, because it's not like, oh, don't go to the store. don't buy things, stop buying clothes, make your own. That's not the answer. But you have to find a way to live in it without it being who you are. And so we have to hear from God who he says we are. And that's the other part that we get in Sabbath. Without my notes, I think that's probably all. I mean, I could read you more things, but I don't know if that'll make sense. Does anybody have questions? Yeah.
Can that same thing be, it's tangible things you buy and have, can it also be be satisfied with exposure to pop culture or the amount of time you spend on something? Does that apply?
I think so, yeah. He wondered, do you want them?
No.
I don't know how to summarize what you said.
I don't even know how to ask it.
Basically, how do you live in culture without being in the culture?
Yeah, and does being satisfied with what we have, is it just tangible? Is that tangible, physical things, or is it even
I think it's everything.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my rock is I want, so very specifically, my rock is I want how God used to talk to me. I want him to talk to me that way again. And he is not giving me that. And so I have to be satisfied with what we have together is enough. And that makes me mad. I'll be honest. It feels like he's holding out on me. It feels like it's a game. A game that I don't know the rules. I like games when I know the rules and I can win. And that, yeah, so I have to, like Jeremy was saying, that's the part in Sabbath I have to turn off and turn that voice down. It's not a game. I know the rules. They're right here. I might not win. He wins. I won't win every time. I'll win in the end with him. It's easy to get jealous when I see him talking to others. I want that. That saying, you're so heavenly focused, you're no earthly good. That kind of used to be me. I just felt like I knew every day, do I do this or this? And every time I asked, I got an answer. What does this look like? How do we do that? And now I'm like, I don't even know if you're here. And so we're pressing through in that waiting. My rock does get smaller and smaller. Even in the last few weeks, I started out with this big old thing I was lugging around. And I've traded in a few times. I don't think we ever get rid of them altogether. I'll pick up something else or become aware of something else that I've been carrying. But in Sabbath and in union with him, in communion with him, I can let this go. I can throw it down. Yeah. So yeah, asking God, who am I? That is one of the answers that we are searching for in Sabbath. And for me, I don't know where you were going to go with this, but if he's saying the churchy answer, it may not be right. Okay, yeah. Oh, you're my beloved. Oh, you're my son, my daughter. Okay. Does he have a nickname for you? Do you know your calling and your purpose? Is he calling you by that? Is that who you are to him? Do you know that? If you don't, that's definitely something you can work on in Sabbath. And if you need help with that, I think any of the elders would help you figure that out. I am eagle-hearted. That's who I am. And my purpose is I am called to the lost within the flock. So I know that, and I know those two things from probably the first 10 years of my inner healing journey. Those were pieces that I picked up. And so I can, like, it is nice to know, like, in this time when I'm not hearing him, I can at least say, well, does that bring out my eagle-heartedness? If I do this, am I helping the lost within the flock? Like, I don't need to hear his voice to answer those questions. I can apply who he's told me I am already to situations I'm facing and know what to do next. Because it can be good things that I still have to say no to if they don't match my calling and who he says I am. Anything else? Yeah.
So, for the 4 things that Sabbath fights against, can you explain how Sabbath fights exclusiveness?
Yes.
It seems like
Yes, okay. Let me see if I have anything from that chapter highlighted. But inclusiveness is whether you're in or like, so inclusive is everyone is in. That's our neighbors. We can talk about that a little bit. So if we go to the neighbor part of the last 6 commandments, that's how you treat each other. And so, not in wedding speak, the other, honor your father and your mother. So that's relational. That's your neighbor. Do not commit murder. Don't kill each other. That has to do with how you treat others. Yeah. Do not commit adultery. Like, don't cheat on each other. You don't steal from one another. Don't lie. Again, that's all how we treat one another. And so in Empire, it was exclusive. You were trying to get to the top of the pyramid, and you were trying to step on anyone you could to get there. And so you're constantly pushing people out of your way and beneath you. It is in and out in church. We often think you're either in or out. Jesus does not treat people like they're in or they're out. Everyone is in. And so Kingdom of Peace is inclusive. Yeah, and so it's just to say that everyone is in, including the foreigner. So his example in the book is the eunuchs. If you read early on in the Old Testament, eunuchs would not have been allowed to worship. Like in Deuteronomy, by those rules, eunuchs would not be allowed to worship within the Israelites, the Israelite body. But in Isaiah 56, do not let the foreigner join to the Lord, say the Lord will surely separate me from his people. And the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to him, to love the name of the Lord and to be his servants. All who keep the Sabbath and do not profane it are the ones that are allowed in. And so he goes on to say that's the only requirement to be in. So it doesn't matter if you're a eunuch. Don't let the eunuch say, I am just a dry tree, for thus says the Lord. To the eunuchs who keep my Sabbath, who choose the things that please me and hold fast to my covenant, I will give in my house and within my walls a monument and a name better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. So if you honor Sabbath, you're in. You're included. Jesus, I think, takes it one step further than everyone is in. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying in that. He just loved everyone. There's still, you have to confess his name, according to John, and believe in him to receive everlasting life. But he loved everyone. And our culture, Empire, there's a whole bunch of in and out, misfits, edge of society. We treat others less than and we treat others poorly. That's what we're fighting against. Any other questions? Discussion? If I can find it, Mr. Brueggemann had an excellent prayer that I would like to share. Yeah. I'll close with this. We remember the old harsh days of master and slave. Some were ruthless, demanding, unforgiving. Others, most of us, were fated to urgent performance. But then you vetoed these presumed arrangements when we walked through the waters of freedom and we found ourselves with no commandment but to love neighbor. We know now in our experience that it takes a neighborhood to make a life. We would not, however, sustain that alternative for very long. We fell back into old patterns. Some of us became slaves again. Some ended up in hopeless debt. Some bondage to addictions that came to define us. Some frozen in deadly emotions. Some enlisted into the rat race that we cannot win. Some of us, by luck or by hustle or by blessing, became masters. We made money and could leverage others. We gained property and with it clout. We earned pedigrees and came out on top. We got credentials that entitled us to more. We outmarched our fellows and came to command them. Without notice, we have returned to the old grind of master and slaves. Brick quotas and hostility and exploitation and alienation. It all happened without notice. We find ourselves recruited in a hopeless, graceless contest of greed. You, God, however, call us back to neighbor. You put in front of us our hired help, the worker class, the service industry, immigrants, the hopeless poor. They are so unlike us who manage and administer and control. Except that in your emancipatory presence, they are also like us. Entitled to rest, assigned to dignity, assured of viability, intended for security. They are like us, permitted rest and leisure, respect and well-being. We are on the way from master-slave to neighbor. It is not an easy way, and we go there reluctantly. But we go there because of you. You are our first good neighbor, and you intend us all to be good neighbors, not on top of the heap to feather our nest or nest egg, not to the bottom of the pile to grovel in despair, but neighbor bondaged only to mercy, compassion, justice, and generosity. Give us courage to be on this journey together. Amen. Thank you. That's all I have. Hopefully it made sense.